Hi, my name is Jeremy Roberts, and I will be doing my presentation on the North Rose window of Notre Dame. First, we're going to start with some biography on the North Rose window. The artist of this window, or the maker of it, the creator, is not known. This is a stained glass art. This is the style of artwork this is, which was very popular during this time, the Gothic art era. And this style of art influenced many other artists and styles during this time, because most were based off of the concepts and things that they were doing in the stained glass windows. This artwork is also in the Notre Dame Cathedral of Chartres, which is a church, and it is accompanied by several other stained glass windows, which are also in the cathedral, which is common in most churches during that time period. Now we're going to cover some background and meanings of stained glass art during the Gothic era. Most of these stained glass windows depicted stories from the Bible in their pictures. Iconography influenced the designs of the stained glass windows, so the pictures and stuff you would see was influenced by iconography. Some of the colors, or most of the colors in the windows, also represented different religious components. For example, blue would represent the Virgin Mary, which was one of their prominent people in their religion. Red represents suffering of Christ, which is also big in their the Catholic religion. Also, the number 12 was represents the Trinity, which is the number 12 represents the Trinity times the number 4, which represents mankind. And the number 12 would occur most times in stained glass windows. It would be the number of time. Now we're going to talk about some background and meaning of stained glass art during the Gothic era. Most of these stained glass windows depict the stories of the Bible. They would have either religious figures or some situation or parable that went on in the Bible. Iconography influenced the designs of stained glass windows. So most of what was going on was influenced by iconography. Colors also played a big part in the Gothic era with stained glass windows because they represented different religious components. For example, blue represented the Virgin Mary, which was one of their icons or one of their prominent people in their religion, and red represented the suffering of Christ, which was also a big thing in the Catholic religion. The number 12 also was represented widely in this stained glass windows, because it represented the Trinity, which was God, Jesus, and this Holy Spirit, times the number 4, which represented mankind. And that kind of goes together with the togetherness of God and people, and the Trinity and people. Many churches use the same blue in their stained glass window, and this blue was called the blue of Chartres, and that was because they wanted to have like a unity, or everyone wanted to be in the same accord with the same blue, and that blue goes back to the representing the Virgin Mary. Also, the rose in these stained glass windows occurred very many times in very many of these stained glass windows, and it represented the perfect love, as well as the eye of God looking down on mankind, which is kind of goes along with the blue. And the connection, no, kind of goes along with the number 12 and the connection between God and people. And also, the Virgin Mary was often depicted in these stained glass windows because she was considered the mother of the Catholic Church during this time, and that goes back to the color blue again. That's how she was depicted. She was depicted with a picture of her, the color blue, or a picture of her in some other religious figure during that time, and she was usually either the focus or one of the major parts of these stained glass windows. Now I'm going to talk about my actual artwork that I chose, which was the North Rose window, and we're going to talk about its symbols and meanings. One of the biggest symbols in it is the rose, which we just talked about, which represent in this situation, it represents the perfect love of God. But however, the focus I would say of this stained glass window is in the middle, and it is Madonna. It depicts Madonna and Child, and this is another religious component and religious figure that the Catholics had in their religion. Um, Also surrounding this focus layer, I would say is the 12 panels which depict doves, and the doves represents the gifts of the Spirit, which are basically the gifts that God gives to the people through the Holy Spirit. Here again we see the number 12 coming in, which is again the Trinity times the number 4, which represents mankind, and this again shows God's connection to the people. And they also used it again in the second layer surrounding this layer, because they used 12 square windows that depicted the kings of Judah. And in these, all of these different windows had a different king of Judah. And I believe this showed like the unity between God, the people, and also their leaders, and how they all are connected. Also on the both sides of the window, there were 4 lancet windows. And in the windows, it was both sides. There was either blue and gold or red and gold, and the blue and gold represented the kings of France. So that also shows, again, the connection between God, their leaders, which is the kings of France, and the people. And then the red and gold represented Queen Blanche of Castile, and she was a major figurehead in their culture at that time. And at the very bottom are 5 lancets, and they're spread across the bottom, and they're big, and there are 5 lancets across, and they represent 5 different figures, and these figures are very important people again in their culture that they had, and also including very important people that they had in their religion. And they, from left to right, they were King Melchizedek, King David, which was a king from the Bible, the Virgin Mary. Hold on. And the Virgin Mary as child, which with her mother held by Saint Anne, which was her mother. And King Solomon, which was another person from the Bible, and and the high priest Aaron, which was another prominent person in their culture at that time. This is a portrait of the stained glass, or a picture of the stained glass, the North Rose stained glass window, and you can see where the focus is in the middle. And then you can see the 12, how the 12 just kind of spirals out up on the top, and gets to 3 layers, and 3 layers around the focus. And then you can also see the 4 windows on both sides in the blue and gold and the red and gold. And then lastly on the bottom you can see the 5 large lancet windows, and the kings and Queen Virgin Mary and Queen Blanche of Castile, and all the people that it portrayed at the bottom. Lastly, we're going to do my personal analysis of the North Rose window of Notre Dame at the Cathedral of Chartres. I think it's full of both religious and cultural symbols, and I like how it's like a blend, because it kind of brings together religion and the culture and the state, and how everything is intertwined and there's no separation. And also I like how it influenced other stained glass artworks. This one was a very popular one at the time, and most other stained glass artworks were kind of resembled this one or built based off of this one. Also, I like the colorfulness and how it makes it stand out. The colors, I like how the colors represented different things and how they were used, and also how they like were put together, and it kind of went together. There was no colors standing out really. All the colors like blended well together while representing different things that they wanted to represent. And also lastly, I like how the stained glass I like how all stained glass arts were built so that the light shining through is what makes the stained glass like beautiful, and what makes it look good. because it kind of again intertwines God and people. That's like God shining through two people, and it's like God shining through people, and it makes that was the what makes people like interesting and unique. And I like how basically I like how the light component of the stained glass, it needs the light for the stained glass to be what it is.